Hello and welcome to another edition of the Profitable Christian Business. I am really stoked today because I have Kurt and Kristen Luidhardt with me today of Liberty Spenders. They do something that I was very, very interested in. We're going to talk about their faith a little bit. We're going to talk about how to leverage conservative Christian audiences, that they can show you exactly how to tap into those audiences. I'm really excited to delve into that because, of course, most of the people watching this are Christian business owners, right? So they would love to know how to tap further into the conservative Christian market. So without further ado, would you mind giving a brief introduction?
Don't mind at all. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in charge of introductions over here. We are Kurt and Kristen Luidhardt, and for 20 years we've owned the Prosper Group, which is our marketing agency, and for 18 of those years, we just worked with political candidates for a living all over the country of all sizes, Republicans, and we'll get into that, I'm sure. But now we help conservative and Christian businesses who are looking to add more leads by talking to a market segment we like to call Liberty Spenders.
Nice. And I see you have that book. I was waiting. I have that book in my cart on Amazon. I was waiting to talk to you first before I ordered it. But as soon as this is over, I'm going to go push.
We'll do our best to win you over.
Yeah.
All right. So I like to start every interview just kind of casually, kind of get to know you a little bit better, let the audience get to know you a little bit better. So one of the questions I have for you around that is relative, but still kind of fun. If you could create a new national holiday to highlight value-based businesses, what would you call it?
The first word that comes to my head is abundance, although Abundance Day doesn't sound as cool as, say, Independence Day.
I know.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I was thinking about freedom, but see, that's already kind of that's already in the ether. That's part of what we celebrate on July 4th. So, so abundance is the word, I think.
Nice.
That's a good one.
Abundance Day.
Imagine, hey, how are you celebrating Abundance Day, right?
Yeah.
That would be such a great thing to say.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we all need to have that more in our mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's so true. Side note, how long have you two been married?
Okay, we got married in 2004.
What you said that way?
Because I can't do because I'm always afraid to say the wrong number, right? Isn't that every married couple's like,
Yeah.
Are we at 21?
We will be 21.
This August it'll be 21. Okay.
Well, early congratulations on your anniversary. No issues here. I am the same way. I'll look up at my wife and I was like, I hope I get this right.
Yeah.
It's no problem when it's been just a couple years, right? But once you get into the 15, 20 years, you start to...
Yeah, what's another year now?
The running joke that we have is that Kurt likes to round up with just about everything. So our kids' ages, he rounds up. How long we've been in business, he rounds up. And so I'm just always like, okay, when it comes to how long you've been married, let's get that right.
Yes. This is her way.
I don't age myself any more than I need to.
She's being my fact checker because, I round up to 20 years in business. It's really like 19 and some odd change,
Well, I will tell you, I don't know how relevant this is. It's not really relevant, but I want to share it anyway. My wife has 2 birthdays. And the one being is very memorable because it's January 1st. And she hated having her birthday on New Year's Day. So we decided she was going to move her birthday to June 21st, the first day of summer, because she loves summer, right? So now I have to remember 2 birthdays. One's really easy to remember.
Oh, man.
Wow.
I get that because my birthday is July 6th, so it's right around the 4th. But it's worked out because it's like things are decorated. There's fireworks going off, So, but I can absolutely empathize with your wife.
Nice. So what's the most on-brand Liberty Spender purchase you've made recently that might surprise us?
That's a great question, and we have a really good answer for you because we just finished the Indianapolis 500 IndyCar race. It is the biggest race or biggest sporting event in all of the world. Is held in Indianapolis. of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we are now completely hooked. And we bought some excellent merch. We are supporting a driver, Stingray Rob. He was car number 77, and all because we got introduced to him and his faith and how he's using his platform in IndyCar and as a driver, as a mission field. And so it is completely a Liberty spender, completely on brand. And in fact, we learned the charity he supports and bought a couple of their hats, which is Freedom Service Dogs of America. And again, not knowing when this goes, or maybe this is live, but Memorial Day weekend, obviously we just celebrated that. And so they train service dogs for veterans and give them free of charge. And it's just it's a beautiful thing. And so that inspired us.
And it's a Liberty Spender purchase because we're Indy 500 fans. You can't live in Indianapolis and not be an Indy 500 fan, as Kristen referenced. I mean, there was somewhere between 350 and 400,000 people there on Sunday.
Wow.
And but we've never really followed IndyCar. There's 17 races that so we always follow the Indy 500, which is sort of their Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest, most high profile car race in the world. But we've never really followed it, but now we are, because we've connected with Stingray on convictions and where he stands on faith, and we've now heard him share his testimony 2 or 3 times, and every time I'm impacted by it. And he sees that as a big part of why he races, and he puts scripture on his car. He's got that in common a little bit with Tim Tebow, and so that's our kind of on-brand Liberty Spender purchase, but a little off the, it's not coffee, it's a IndyCar.
Yeah, that's super cool. It's interesting. I've always been this way. I've never really followed a sports team. I follow people, right? Michael Jordan, I was a Michael Jordan fan. If he had left the Bulls, I would have followed him. Hometown hero for you, probably Peyton Manning, right? For the longest time was there. I followed Peyton when he left Indy. I followed him to Denver. I became a Denver fan because he was in Denver. I didn't really root for the team. So I really feel like it's about the bond that you get with the players, not so much with the team.
Yeah, well, there's some
both.
truth to that.
Yeah, there's some truth.
Yeah.
But
I'm a little more. When Manning left and Luck came in here in Indianapolis, best game ever was when he came back the following year. It was Luck's rookie year, I think, and played us here in Indianapolis, and we won.
That felt great.
Yeah. A little bit of a revenge for leaving us.
Yeah, I mean,
we still love him. No, it's not like that. In fact,
we let him go,
yeah.
So it wasn't like he left on purpose, and he wanted to stay. But I'm here to support the team, and so in fact, the most interesting piece of that was there was a key moment in the game when Robert Mathis, our defensive end, sacked Peyton Manning in the end zone for a safety. Might have been a touchdown. I can't remember. Either way, I saw Robert Mathis a couple of years later, and I told him that was one of my favorite moments of his when he sacked Manning. And I was, it was a crazy game. We stood up the entire time, and he said that was also his favorite because for his entire NFL career, Manning has always worn a red jersey, so he was never allowed to hit him. And it wasn't until then he was allowed to hit him. And so it was immensely satisfying.
Nice. Not to turn this into sports podcast. This is the last thing I was going to talk about as far as sports. I love sports. I'm more of a college football fan myself. Just to reference, there is one team that I follow no matter who's there, and that's the Clemson Tigers, because I live here in the upstate South Carolina. I'm a big Dabo Sweeney fan. He raises them up right.
Right.
So, yeah, and he's a man of God too. Dabo, if you ever hear him speak, he at the end of games, he's always giving the credit where credit is due. So it's really, really good. So I think this is a really fun question. If you're stranded on a desert island, but can only bring one marketing book and one item from your home, what are you choosing? And you each get one.
Well, I'm thinking about this, and it's like, okay, well, should I think survival? Like, okay, if I'm on a desert island and there's salt water, I should probably bring a filter, but also, gosh, do I want to go how long being stranded without the word of God? I probably, that would probably help sustain me. So I'll pick the item from home. If you can do the marketing book.
Well, the marketing book that's my favorite, other than my own, maybe, I don't know, is Influence by
Oh, that's
Robert
good.
Cialdini.
Ooh,
Must read for anyone in marketing or sales. Absolutely brilliant. And one of those few books that you just can't skim quickly because there's a gem in every page. So that's my endorsement for Robert Cialdini's Influence.
Yeah, he's a
wow.
genius.
With every like, if I was to scan this room and I show you all the marketing books that we have, I can't believe that is not on my shelf. I have so many
Oh,
marketing books. I am you. I'm gonna get your
add
book
to
and
cart.
that book. Add the cart.
Add to
Yes,
cart.
I give it a resounding endorsement, and I'll tell you, I much of what we see in other marketing and sales books today originated with some of his thoughts about how we influence people. Some of the basic 7 levers of influence, the idea of reciprocity and authority and urgency. These are all principles I've used in marketing and probably read them somewhere else, but they originated in his book, and so well worth the read.
Nice, nice. And Kristen, I have to applaud you on your picking of the Bible, because I feel like if you have God, you need nothing else, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
so,
I mean it's the right answer.
yep. That's the best answer possible. Thanks for tuning into today's episode.
As a Christian entrepreneur, we want to give you something for free. If you go to clientsforthekingdom.com, we have an ideal client avatar generator on there for free. It's something that we've spent thousands of dollars on, countless hours out, and building out this structure of showing you who your ideal client avatar is and an offer stack that can work for your business.
Enjoy the rest of the episode. So
Yeah.
one of the things that we do every time on the Profitable Christian Business is a fill in the blank question, and either one of you can answer this. Again, this is the first time I've had a couple on the podcast, so either one of you that wants to answer it can answer it. The fill in the blank is: conviction driven marketing begins with blank.
Authenticity.
Ooh, yes. Do you want to dive into that at all?
Yeah, I mean, it is a big part of what we talk about, which I realized we reference Liberty Spinners without explaining what that means or who they are. But our concept of what we're teaching our clients is that conviction-driven marketing, which is a new form of strategic marketing, you're really aligning based on values. And so you're leading in with that. And we argue you should do that with faith and political beliefs. And there's a million ways to do that in a way that, again, feels authentic. But people just trust is the new currency. And people's attentions are short. We have a very high BS meter. We don't believe things. Our trust in institutions is broken, and the news is broken, and big organizations is broken. And so the wave now of marketing is to build authentic trust. I mean, that's the only way you can have it, is with authenticity, and building out your brand in a way that is consistent, so that your clients and consumers really feel, connected to you and that they can do business with you.
Yeah, I think it's the building wave. I think still most marketers are thinking, let's just grab attention, right?
Yeah.
Let's have a funny ad and people are blowing through paper. We're like Dollar Shave Club, right? And everybody talks about that as marketing brilliance. And to some extent, it was wildly successful. But on the other hand, I don't think that's an approach that's going to work in today's environment, where people don't believe anything they see. They don't believe the news. They don't believe marketing communications. They don't trust anything. We live in a society where we are flooded with information and starving for truth.
Yes.
Right. And that's a marketing statement. It's also a spiritual statement, right? But we're starving for it. And so brands need to think about not just how am I getting eyeballs on my stuff. That's easy, right? You can put something on TikTok and have 2 million views later. I was just thinking about this a couple years ago. One of our caregivers posted a video of our daughter laughing on TikTok, and she has this cute laugh. And a week later, there's 1.2 million views on that video, right? So it's easy, right? You don't have to do anything particularly creative. She's just laughing, and it's just a cute laugh. but it's hard to build trust. That's the commodity you've got to go after. And most of your marketers aren't thinking that. They're still saying, hey, let's work on your logo. Let's get a really cool, fun ad. Maybe you're doing something silly. But trust is what's such an expensive commodity right now. And to go back to Kristen's statement, that's often about authenticity, although it's deeper than that. And that's really what we're trying to teach people with conviction-driven marketing. And just to add some weight to it, 85% of all U.S. consumers are now saying that they're considering a brand's values when they buy their products. And 75% of all consumers are saying they've switched a product in the last 12 months over a values misalignment. And we can think of the high-profile examples. We got people out there these days keying, Elon Musk's Tesla cars or whatever, or people leaving Bud Light over brand misalignment there. And so we see it with these big brands, but it's also true of your company. If you're doing just a couple $1 million in sales, people really want to know, when I buy from you, is my money going where something into places that I would approve of, right? Mm-hmm. Are you treating your employees the way I approve of? And so that is something that the whole country is looking at, not just conservatives and Christians, but but amongst conservatives and Christians, of which there are 76.5 million of them from our study. They spend $5 trillion a year, and they really want to know, hey, if I'm buying from you, do you match my values?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going to segue really nicely. I don't feel like you've answered it wholly yet, to the secret question. So the secret question, what is the secret to creating trust in a marketing situation?
Yeah, I think it's connecting on an identity level, right? So we talked about sports earlier, right? And so right now, I'm a rather enthusiastic Pacers fan because the Pacers are progressing in the playoffs. They're pulling off all these unexpected wins. But 4 months ago, in the middle of their season, I couldn't tell you what their record was. I couldn't name all of their starting players, but now I'm watching it. Now I'm emotional about it. They lost on Sunday after winning 2 games in New York, right? So now I'm all emotional about it. But that fandom is really sort of temporary, right? Mm-hmm. There's nothing, I'll feel bad for 24 hours, and I might have a couple of friends from New York who will razz me if the Knicks beat the Pacers. But it really doesn't change my life in one way or the other. I don't feel affected significantly. And too many of us are trying to market to that kind of level, right? We're talking to people. We got a best price. We have a cool new feature. Those are all fleeting. They go away, and all that has to happen is for your competitor to drop their price by 5%. And that whole thing goes away, or they add a new feature, or you're selling on Amazon and Amazon decides to start copying your product, or some Chinese knockoff. Those are completely indefensible positions right now for a company. But when you can connect with people on an identity level, I share your values. We're people who we share faith, we share a political identity. You're connecting with them in a way that makes them loyal to you so much deeper than, well, I'm just buying because it's cheaper than the store next door. They've got a special going on. I got a coupon. It's all very fleeting. Identity is unchangeable. People's faith and politics remain very similar over time. Whereas you were a Colts fan one day, and then you were a Broncos fan the next day. And so we've got to connect on a much deeper level. That's, I think, the secret today. And again, a lot of people are missing it in their marketing.
Okay, if you're listening, wherever you're listening to this, or you're watching this on YouTube, I want you to rewind and listen to that whole piece again. That's one of the things that we talk about all the time at the Profitable Christian Business is, what are your underlying values? How are you, like the word profitable, I tell people this all the time. Yes, we want your business to be more profitable, but we want you to be profitable for the kingdom. Those values from your business need to represent kingdom values, right? I'm sure you can go into this really well. I'll give a short story first about a local business here. It's grown since then. There's a business here called when it started, it was called Tropical Chicken, and it's run by this guy named Lazaro Montoya, I think is his last name, but he had this little one man like business, right? Went there all the time. He attracted a crowd, and when you walked in, what was playing on the speakers? Praise music, right? He had a woman come in there, sit down, and says, "You will not make it if you keep playing that music." And he's like, "I appreciate your opinion, but I'm not going to stop doing that." Right? Today, he's opening up a new restaurant every single month, and he's expanded into other restaurants. It is just so great to see that kind of thing because he stood on his values, right?
Right.
And I think I love your take on Chick-fil-A because I'm a Chick-fil-A fan. I'm never going to go away from Chick-fil-A. So to me, that's one of the best businesses that represents this.
Well, and to your point, it's interesting because there are signals, right? In your example of this restaurant, right? There's signals that are being sent. It's not like you've got to put a big, Jesus fish, on all your things. It's the music he's playing. Chick-fil-A, we know about the values of the founders, but their service is outstanding, which is a big piece of this too, which is you want to exemplify that in everything you do and how you treat your employees, how you treat your customers, what's your follow-up, what's the experience that they have. And so all of those things go into it because, you still have to have an excellent product. You still have to compete at that level. But yeah, again, they have an amazing chicken sandwich, but I will drive out of my way. I will inconvenience myself. I pay more to eat at Chick-fil-A than I would another place.
Yeah, and we tell people, and this would be true of Tropical Chicken, right? There's 76.5 million Liberty spenders in this country, people who are significantly more likely to buy from a brand if they know it matches their conservative or Christian values. So whereas you might be a little worried, well, maybe I turned off this one customer because they didn't like the Christian music playing. But you're going to bring in people who out of the 76.5 million, and for a restaurant to thrive, they don't need even a fraction of that, particularly in upstate New York, right? They need to find the 5,000 people who really, really love this and are going to come back to that restaurant 2 or 3 times a month to eat because they know the ownership aligns with their values. And so that example is something that sometimes scares people off because they think, well, I lost this person. But the people you attract are going to outnumber the people who don't find you in alignment with them.
Yeah. I had my own battle with this. Me and God butted heads. Because I had this whole notion, I want to appeal to everybody, right? And I was more of a behind the scenes. I didn't have a podcast, and you rarely find me on social media. And God basically told me, I want you to come out from behind the scenes and share my word and have me all throughout your business. I was like, God, how am I going to track the loss that way? He's like, don't worry about it. I got that, right? Because we help businesses grow, and the more that we help businesses grow, the more that they're going to help the kingdom grow. So,
absolutely,
that's exactly the thinking. That's exactly right. And by the way, not only attracting people that are really bought in, but those people are more likely to refer you, right? To repurchase, reorder, higher lifetime value. So, depending on your business and which one of those things applies. All of those things are adding to the bottom line and giving you a greater chance to have more impact.
I was really astounded by this number that you use in your marketing. $5 trillion market. Wow.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that number?
So we know. So here's what we did. We, coming from politics, we're big about data, right? And we were curious. We know that there are businesses that are thriving by marketing to conservatives and Christians. Black Rifle Coffee Company went public for over $1 billion, right? We know that Chick-fil-A and Hobby Lobby are thriving. We know that Patriot Mobile, Every Life Diapers, and a countless number of other businesses are really starting to take off on this basic concept. But we were curious, how big is this, right? Chick-fil-A also has a really killer sandwich, so maybe they're just grabbing a lot of Americans who just love their chicken. You know, maybe they just like it more than Popeyes. And to Kristen's point, they have a good service.
Mhm.
So we did a big deep dive, a big national survey asking consumers how much do they value this and how much is it likely to change their purchasing patterns, and then built out a nationwide model based on that survey to find 76.5 million people who care about, they're significantly more likely to buy if they associate your brand with conservative or Christian values. Now, of that 76.5 million, 45 million like to see both. Of the rest of 30 million, they're basically evenly split. They care about Christian values, not really conservative values, or they care about conservative values, not really Christian. So we're also capturing some people in that list that might not be of faith at all, or who may be politically conservative, but they're Muslim or something. So we do capture a pretty diverse audience. That group of people, based on what we know of them and all of the data on them, makes and spends about $5 trillion a year. That's a little bit of an inexact science. Either way,
Wow.
though, it's a massive market. But it does tie to what we know of the population in general, because we know that of the population in general, 75% of them, as I mentioned earlier, no matter what faith they are, and no matter where they stand on the political spectrum, have said, hey, we've switched a brand on this.
Mhm.
So if you're not thinking about this as a business, you're behind already, right? Because this isn't some emerging
No.
thing that's kind of percolating with 5% of the population. It might become a thing later. This is now 3/4 of American consumers are saying this is already one of their top issues when they buy from a brand. So, and it also helps with people who are just scared to do it. And so your customers are already asking and they're already looking. So you might as well tell them, right? And so that's a long-winded answer probably to your $5 trillion question.
No, that was really good. We've talked about some big businesses. We've talked about Chick-fil-A, Black Rifle Coffee. A lot of my audience are kind of the smaller Christian businesses, right?
Mhm.
So, do you have any insights into how a small Christian business, even maybe it's not even just Christian or conservative. My audience is going to be
Right.
Christian, but how can they leverage their resources to begin to leverage the conviction-driven marketing to reach the Liberty spenders?
I think, for us, that's what I get so excited about is because there are so many ways to do this. It's not just one way. In fact, we highlight that in our book, which is, you know, we don't just go to paid advertising. Like, we don't go there. There's so many other things that I would even argue a lot of times more effective. So for a smaller business, again, depending on if you're B2B or B2C, there's podcasts, right? Like what we're doing right now. There's email. Do you have your customer list? Do you have their contact information? You can start putting in those messaging and value add moments with your customers in email. There's organic social without having to pay. And then there's just what networking opportunities, right? So if you're a service business and you're B2B, networking with intention. So I want to find people of like mind. Okay, what's that going to be? What is authentic to me? What do I want to highlight with my business? And then where do I think are the best places to network to find those people? And so it's amazing how we are able to help clients just with those things that don't cost, marginal, maybe email if you don't already have it, but marginal to nothing. And just by being intentional about it, are increasing their relationships, they're forming strategic partnerships, and they're finding all kinds of ways to increase their business. And by the way, getting more fulfillment out of it because it's now connected. It's aligned. And so, for many business owners, this is not to get sidetracked, but it can be lonely, being an entrepreneur and you have so much hanging on you. And so this kind of helps, I think, also get out of this rat race of just, okay, I got to reach my sales quota, or I got to reach this goal for this quarter. Then I got to go again. There's so many things we think about as business owners with the culture, with the quality of product and service. And by also tying this in and making this a core piece of your marketing, it's just the fulfillment just goes through the roof because of those things being in alignment.
I would also argue This is a best strategy for small businesses. I look at it this way. If you're a landscaper in, Rochester, New York, I mean, how many landscape companies are in Rochester? There's probably dozens,
Yeah.
right? And if you're a consumer saying, I got to go pick one of these people, what are you going to do? And you're going to do a couple of things. You might ask a friend, I like your lawn. Who does that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Or you might Google it, and then you're going to see 10 landscapers. You're going to think, how do I know who's the best? Maybe you look at a rating site, but by coming out and saying, you know what, we're landscapers and we're people of faith, and we give our employees Sundays off, or we donate a percentage of our profits to the church, or we're really involved in various charities, or we really believe in doing it right because we're people of faith. That's a differentiator that just by stating it makes you different than anybody else when they are out looking for a landscaper. So you might be shocked how much business you would get simply by stating this. It's a differentiator. It's really powerful for small business because you don't need 76.5 million of them.
Yep.
There are thousands of customers in Rochester, New York today saying, I really want to hire a landscaper, and they could, and I'm a Christian. This would be a decision maker for me. I know for me, that's the person I'm calling first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Couple things. I want to go to your answer, then I want to go back to Kristen's answer. You're actually hurting your growth the more you're trying to appeal to everybody, right? Especially when you're smaller, because you're not Coca-Cola yet, right? You may never be Coca-Cola, right? And you're actually hurting your growth if you're trying to think everybody is your market, because it's just not true. That's one thing that we talk about a lot in what we do. And Kristen, I love what you said, because we talk about this a lot as well, is marketing through relationship building, right? Almost everything that you mentioned was about relationship building. Was it networking? Was it some organic social media? Those type of things, podcasting. We're building a relationship right now. This is the first time I met you, but we're building a relationship. And I already knew coming on that you were going to align. But I really feel like some of the biggest business moves for me has been in the relationship building. It hasn't been paid media. It has been building a relationship with somebody, and boom, that sparks something else, right? So I loved what you had to say there.
And even in big consumer-facing brands, that relationship building is priceless, because again, it leads to deals or distribution, or so. I mean, that's just that just works across any size, any industry.
Yeah, I love it. Can we dive into your faith a little bit?
Absolutely.
Oh,
let's do it.
All right. So is there a particular biblical principle or story that guides you?
I think a lot about, Tim Keller's book, Every Good Endeavor. If you've ever read it, it should be essential reading for every Christian business owner, about the value of work and why God created and work. And I'm moved by the idea that God created a world and wanted man to work it and make it better, right? To organize it, and wanted us to do good and get joy from it. And Kristen hit the nail on the head when she was saying a lot of business owners have lost that joy. There have been years in our 20 years in business, or as Kristen would say more accurately, 19 years in business, that I just wasn't sure why I was doing this, because I realized I was just doing it because it was a paycheck, right, at that point, because I was making money, and I'd lost a sense of how I was making the world a better place, and how I was doing what God asked.
So crazy, considering we worked in politics. When we tell people this, they're like, you couldn't make that connection. You're electing congressmen, governors, work for a president, and you're losing sight of this. So it can happen in any business, right?
Absolutely.
Can we dive into that a little bit about the whole political background? Like, how did you get I want to know a little bit of the story now. So how did you get started in that? And then how did it transform to where you are now? Is that too long of a story?
Well,
it depends on who tells it, I suppose.
we both struggle a little bit telling this because, as with any entrepreneur, it is not linear. It is not a straight line. It is like crazy. It's like, well, which part of the crazy story do you want to hear? No,
we met in college. This is the best way I think to start it. We met at Indiana Wesleyan University in Marion, Indiana. Christian school. Wonderful, by the way. Triple endorsement for anyone. And we met in the College Republicans of all places, right?
I know, nerd alert.
Yes. and we were both passionate about changing the world, and we thought the way to do it was electing politicians. I mean, I got interested in politics even in high school. I was a super nerd in that regard. And we thought, man,
you took a briefcase to high school.
Yeah.
Nice.
I can't believe I married this guy.
Yeah. Well, she wasn't around for all that. So but yeah, we just thought we're going to elect these politicians, and the Red Sea is going to part, the sun's going to come out, everything's going to be wonderful. And it wasn't. I grew up in high school. It was in 1994 when Republicans took control of Congress for the first time in 40 years. I thought everything's going to be great, and so we got involved. We ran campaigns and we did the things political operatives do. And then we thought, well, hey, we hate being unemployed after every election. That's the worst part about being a political campaign manager is day after the election, win, lose, or draw, it's over, right? Your job's gone. So we had the brilliant idea, which was not so brilliant, that what we should do is start a business serving these people because then we wouldn't be unemployed after the election. So the new problem was we weren't unemployed, but we lost all our clients after the election. But either way, we started that back in 2006 and, started working for small campaigns.
Just here in Indiana.
Yeah, just here. City council races, state reps, and worked our way up by doing bigger and bigger races. In 2010, we got our first big break. We did a couple of really big campaigns. State Senator Scott Brown, who ran for U.S. Senator in Massachusetts, if anybody remembers this race, because it was now 15 years ago, where he beat he won a U.S. Senate race in Massachusetts as a Republican, which hasn't happened since. And that really helped us, grow. And what we had gotten good at during this time was raising small dollar funds online. So think of us as crowdfunding for political campaigns. We were the people who would find the $25 or $35 or $50 email or text donations for candidates. And so over this time period from 2006 through 2024, we had helped raise over $500 billion. Million. Sorry, 500 million. 500 billion would be awesome. When it's
still both big numbers either way. But
yeah, 500 million. I think we're approaching 600, and we're being a little conservative in that number. But for Republican political candidates, and helped elect over 100 members of Congress and 15 governors and 15 senators, and we worked for Donald Trump in 2016, and so that's what we built.
And it was a crazy ride because in 2009, so we've started our business. We're young. We don't know anything about business. And there were no elections in Indiana, and it was really rough. And we're like, how are we going to do this? We've got no money, and we started just traveling. We hit the road, and we would sometimes sleep in our car because we couldn't afford hotels. We couldn't afford plane flights, right? Anybody who's listening who's like, started their business scrappy, like, you guys get this. And we just worked. We did not have the network. We built our business the exact opposite of other people in our space who typically work on high profile races, and then they hang out their shingle after they've built some relationships so they get clients coming to them. We were just kids, just absolute nobodies, working really small local races. And then traveled. We've traveled over 1 million miles, on our car. And that's how we did it. Again, back to that relationship building and just being the people that we're going to work and serve. And so it was all God. God really blessed us, and he just put us in these right places. Because again, this big breakout campaign ended up being the national flashpoint because Obama had been elected. And so this was the big race after that. And was huge, covered everywhere. And that just catapulted us. And we got that race because we were friends with someone and their web vendor had quit and they didn't have any money to pay us. And we thought, well, sure, we'll do it. What else do we have going on? And so again, it's just, I can't even say anything we did. I mean, we worked, but obviously it was just God's favor in putting us in that right place. And then that led to us doing Mitt Romney's campaign and helping him raise money in 2012. And it just kept building from there because we built that expertise. And that's what we're so excited to bring to businesses now, because all this time we'd have people say, well, you're a marketing company. Can you help my business? No, this is our niche. This is what we know. I don't want to pretend to be something I'm not. I can't help you. And now we can. Now we can, because we have figured out, and God has put in our hearts all these things we've learned about, converting people to vote and to open their wallets when they get nothing in return. We now understand those principles. We know the ecosystem, we know the media, we know what they watch and listen to, and we can now help impact-driven, visionary, kingdom-building entrepreneurs build their business and have an impact for their family, their community, and the kingdom.
Wow. I love your story. I heard you had to have a very strong why buried underneath there, because often there's that breaking point when most entrepreneurs give up, right? When they're going through that struggling period and like, maybe entrepreneurship isn't for me, right?
Right.
But deep down, we know it's God's calling on our life, and we push through, right? Because He's given us He's given us a mission. Right. And we're here to complete it. So I love that story so much. I do want to talk a little bit more about dive into that just a little bit more about how you help businesses with what you do. So what sort of specific things do you help them with?
Yeah. So so as we talked about, our basic proposition is, you've got this market segment that you didn't even know existed until we told you about it, called Liberty Spenders. And we're going to help you be popular with that group and generate leads for your business. So our goal, our outcome we're pursuing on our clients is, let's amp up your revenue and sales by teaching you how to talk to those people. And we take people through, and if you read our book, you get it all. Our 5 Ps for success, engaging in conviction-driven marketing to get to these Liberty Spender consumers. And
nice.
So we'll walk people through it. And for some customers, what we do is simply kind of hold their hand through the process, but they do all the work. We show them how to do it. We teach them how to do it. We put them in front of some amazing, successful people who've already done it to learn the whole process, but they do it all. And we have a kind of a program where we do that with them in a group setting, and they also get to network with other people achieving this. And there's a lot of opportunity for people to collaborate and work together. Mm-hmm. And then for some consumers or companies, more on an invitation basis, we will actually do it for them. We'll become their marketing agency. A lot of times we're collaborating with who they already have. We're not here to get your marketing agency fired. We're here to make them more effective, right? Mm-hmm. But in some cases, we'll come in a really big way, and we've got a team of 30 people, and we can really, really dig in multiple places. And in that case, we would help them with things like how to get out into the market. We'll help them with PR, podcast booking. We'll help run ads for them. We'll help develop new creatives, or connect them with our vast network of conservative email newsletter owners, things like that. So we really have two tracks.
Nice.
Yeah, I was just thinking, depending on if you have a product, one amazing thing too is brand ambassadors or spokespeople. And so that's one thing we've been doing a lot of. It's been having a lot of success as well. But because again, it's like, well, how does anybody... The number one question we get, if people say, gosh, this is amazing, I love this concept, now what? Like, how is anybody going to know who I am? How am I going to connect or build that trust? And so sometimes you can leverage other people's trust, right? By aligning with someone who's excited about your product or service, and they can be a brand spokesman for you.
Yeah. And we
Nice.
just finished one, cross my fingers, maybe by today, with a Christian actor for one of our customers, and it took a couple of months to really come up with a good agreement. And this actor really wanted to be confident in the quality of their product, but that's going to be a something that's going to take a wellness brand that nobody knows about to an audience of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, overnight, because you're borrowing the trust. This Christian actor is well known and well trusted by their people. So instead of having to go through what could be a months-long process of trying to educate people, hey, I'm a Christian business owner and I sell health and wellness products, and we try to honor Christ in everything we do and try to get attention. They're now borrowing the credibility that this particular actor has. And I think it's going to be a really powerful opportunity for them. And so Chris is right to mention this is something we actually really enjoy these kinds of deals because they're really cool for a company. Some of them get to end up working with people that they've, always admired or watched their TV shows, and so it can be really fun.
Yeah. I imagine that's a big amplifier. Like it takes the timeline, it speeds the timeline way up because, we know when you're trying to establish a brand from fresh, right? From start, it takes a little while because you got to get out there. You've got to start putting your values out there, your personality out there, and it just takes a little while to develop that. But when you can begin by leveraging someone else's authenticity, I'm not even saying that right. Authenticity. That's the word I'm trying to say. Authenticity. I'm just thinking, if you could get Tim Tebow to endorse your product, boom,
right.
You're immediately on the world stage. So,
and we do that. And also, if you are going to then put paid dollars, I mean, you want something like that. Not every business owner or founder is going to want to be the face of the of the brand, or they may not feel comfortable being in the spotlight in that way. And so this is a great way to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Wow. I love all this. I feel like I could have you all on for a second time, and maybe we'll talk about that down the road. But I'm glad that I met you. I think there's, like I mentioned off camera, there's some opportunity here for us. I have some people that I want to introduce you to. So
let's do it, man.
Yeah.
We got some kingdom to build. Let's make it happen.
That's right.
And I will say, just Doug, from what you shared, if I could encourage you, because anybody who's listening, can feel your heart. It really shines through, even through a Zoom. And, your decision, I think, to put yourself out there. And what I was so excited about talking to you because, again, the profitable Christian business is so, I think sometimes we have such big hearts, of people of faith. We want to help people, which I do. But we need to be successful. We need to have profit. That is what drives future growth. That is what drives generosity, contribution. And so I just want to give kudos to you for putting that out there because it is a business, not a charity. Now the idea is we then fuel charities. But the business, we need to be, God calls us to be wise and shrewd. And so I give props to you on what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah. You have to have something to give in order to give, right? And the more profitable you can be, the more you can have to give.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you again. Where can we, I almost forgot, but let's do this. First of all, where can we send people to find out more about Liberty Spenders and what you do?
Yeah, well, they can go to libertyspenders.com.
Okay.
And we also have a place where they can download the book. And so they can also go to libertyspenders.com/free.
Nice.
And they can download our book for free. Now, if you want to make a donation to, college fund for our 3 or 5-year-old, you can also go to Amazon and buy it. But we
Speaking of profitable business, yes,
there you go.
Buy it on Amazon.
Yes.
Or you can download a digital version. We're able to do that.
Yeah, and then go to libertyspenders.com/free and make sure you sign up for email there. I think you'll give an email address to do it because we're about to be promoting our next invitation to join our group and work with us on your marketing. And so that's a great way to start with us. But also for people who don't want to do that, we've tried to write the book so it wasn't just it's not just some really flimsy marketing book that you don't learn anything from. It's pretty exhaustive. You could read the book and implement pretty much all of what we told you yourself, right?
There's worksheets and
I th-
access to things.
I think working with us makes it faster, but you could do it. And so definitely go and check it out.
Awesome. I do have a comment about that, because one of the things that like we pound the table with is lead with value, right? And with what you just said about your book, you're leading with value. We like when we're talking to people about how they should engage, what their lead magnet should be. Make sure that they're leaving with value, right? That it's not just something they're just going to put. They have to be able to take action from what you give them. Kudos. That is really good.
And this isn't some AI generated book,
it'd be a lot better if it, no, we wrote this. I'm sorry to say.
Back to that authenticity that I had trouble saying earlier.
Yes.
Yep. The audiobook's out there. We read it ourselves, so it's in our voice. So if you really want help falling asleep, you could also listen to the audio version and
check us out at audible.com.
I listen to most of my audiobooks while I'm working out, so I don't think I'd fall asleep.
Okay,
Let's hope not.
I do have one last question for every single person that comes on the Profitable Christian Business, and that is, I hate to leave any stone unturned, and there may be in either one of your heads right now, I wish I could have said this. I really wanted to share this. So any parting words of wisdom for the audience?
I think I may have said this already, but I just want to reemphasize it. I think what we're talking about here with conviction-driven marketing, generically speaking, and with Liberty Spenders more specifically, I think this is the marketing strategy for the next decade. Everything that's happening in our world, all the tribalism we've come to expect from politics is now affecting consumer behavior. And so some of you are listening to this and thinking, this is cute, but maybe not for me. I'm going to do what we've been doing for the last 2 decades. I'm going to talk about why we're the market leader here. We're the cost leader. We're Walmart, falling prices, whatever the thing is. But I think that stuff just isn't working the way it used to. And if you're struggling right now thinking, why, I've got a good thing going, I've got a good business, and you just can't break through, I think this is your recipe for it. And so you don't have to work with us, but you dive into this concept, because I really do believe what we're talking about here, everyone's going to be talking about in 5 or 6 years. You could be somebody who grabs onto this early as a business and builds something before everybody else realizes, oh yeah, I need to be doing this too.
Well, and with AI, content, it's just going to get easier and easier to flood the zone with all kinds of stuff that, again, it goes back to, I don't know what it is. I don't know who wrote it. And that's why that authenticity and building that brand and building that trust is so critical, because it's only going to get harder and harder to stand out and for people to trust you and connect. Yeah.
I'm in the lane of the relationship builders are really going to start standing out. The authenticity is really going to start standing out, because it's going to be flooded with so much inauthenticity and so much AI generated stuff, right? That people want to connect with real people.
Yeah. When creating content is now free and easy, then it's now commoditized and less valuable. So all the stuff that we used to think about doing, in just a few years, is just not as valuable anymore. When I can push a button and say, I want to make a video and have ChatGPT create it, or I want to write a case study and have ChatGPT make it up. So, all of that stuff becomes devalued. And so that's only going to accelerate what we're talking about right here, in my opinion, is because all of this stuff that we used to do, that used to take forever, if you wanted to make a cool ad that everybody watched, you're going to have to spend a lot of money on it, and you're going to have to spend a lot of time. That's all gone. And so it's time to join in on this trend, because it's going to define marketing, I think, for the next decade.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you again. You have been some of my favorite guests ever on the podcast. So much great information. Again, go to Liberty. Anyone that's watching or listening, go to libertyspenders.com. If you if you're one of my audience, I implore you to go to Amazon to buy their book. We'll put that link below. There is a free version, but we're talking about profitable. The name is in the podcast. So you want your business to be profitable. Let's continue to help Liberty spenders continue to be profitable. So go to that link, buy the book. I'm actionable content in there, not just fluff. So go use it and then hire them once you've read the book and said, wow, this is some great stuff. I really need some more leverage. So thanks again, Kurt and Kristen. It has been really, really nice to have you on the show.
Well, thank you.
Doug.
All right. And until next time, entrepreneurs, keep moving forward. Thanks for checking out the Profitable Christian Business Podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and share.